So what we try to put together all support services which farmers needs. So in terms of farmers needs, any farmer needs, it's about 6 kind of support services which farmers needs. So one is about training and advisory. So how do we do production so that it is economically viable, and have surveillance and advisories regularly, so that if I have a problem, somebody can advise me. So today there is an outbreak of some pests, or there is going to be drought, or there is a rain. So on that, how do I deal with that? And similarly, if I have a problem, whom do I approach to get it solved? So there should be someone who can help me in terms of identifying my problem and then solving the problem. It could be because of a salinity in the soil. It could be because of a wrong seed which I used. It could be pest and disease. It could be anything. So, but the problem diagnostics is very, very critical. So this all together, who provides this support service is an important issue. Every individual farmer needs this kind of support. Similarly, access to loan and insurance financial support services is something which is very, very important. It could be crop loan, it could be loan for buying an implement or setting up a livelihood activity, but access to finance becomes very, very critical. So how the individual can get access to the finance, and then how as an organization, we as a farmer producer organization, we create a facility so that farmers get access to the finances. As an organization, we don't need to have all these inbuilt, in the sense, say, if you want to have extension services to your members, you may not have a staff, an FPO need not have a full-time staff who does that, but you need to have people who can mobilize farmers and who can also mobilize the support from others. So I think that's a planning one need to do. Similarly, when it comes to the finances, FPO need not have all the finances to provide loans to the farmers, but it should know how do we access loans and then how do we make it happen. I think that's the key issue which is important. Similarly, about insurance, in a situation where risk is increasing, how do we improve access to insurance, both crop insurance and livestock insurance and many other insurances is something which is very important. So access to finance. Similarly, inputs. Can FPO become a center where inputs are available? So better quality seeds, better quality of inputs, better quality of implements, tools. So all these kind of services. Similarly, when it comes to the machinery, today the expectation is that everybody will have their own machines, which is economically not viable. So can we have a kind of custom hiring services in terms of good implements available, and also in terms of building capacities of the farm labor, so that the services can be provided in a better way. Say, if you are expecting a harvesting of mangoes or a harvesting of vegetables, it's a specialized skill. So you need to also build the capacities of the labor to deliver these services in a better way. So custom hiring services is another important area one need to look into. Similarly, market linkages. Market linkages includes where do you sell, connecting to the buyers, aggregating, grading and storage, and then identifying infrastructure facilities in the vicinity where you can store or have your own facilities. So this is something which is important. And last but not the least, very important is how do we improve access to entitlements and support services from the government is also very important. So this area is where the major failure happens. The last mile delivery of support services is a failure today. So the entire crisis in agriculture can be attributed to this one single factor, that the last mile delivery of support services is a failure, and first mile aggregation of produce is a difficulty. So these two have contributed to the entire crisis in agriculture. So as an FPO, if we are trying to address these two issues in terms of improving the first mile aggregation, so where you aggregate, you do grading, store, and then improve storage, if require value addition, that part of it. Other part of it is the most critical is the last mile delivery of support services. It could be government services, it could be private services. So all these support services, that is the typical failure. So how do we improvise them is something which we need to look into. Then comes, if FPO has to provide all these support 6 services to the farmers, where do they get that skill? Because everything may not be internalized. No, we need to deal with other organizations also. So typically, there are a few services which are required. So if I group them together, they are extension services, enterprise services, financial services, input services, quality assurance, uh, government services and entitlement, so access to them, market services and legal services in terms of legal compliances, GST, IT returns, and then filing with ROC, those kind of things. So if we put together these 8 services, how do we aggregate these services? Who provides these services? How do we get connected to these services is something which is important. The local supporting organization may not have all these skills. So that's where they need to identify and figure out partnerships. So where you can get these support services so that it becomes economically viable. And there are a number of organizations which are doing this. I think that is something which we need to look into. And what we tried to do in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and many other states, we were, as CSA, we worked with about 200 farmer producer organizations. And what we found is at a local level, if we can build on existing groups, so at the village level, built on existing farmer groups, it could be a farmer field school group, it could be a PGS group, it could be a joint liability group, it could be an SHG group, whatever is the village level group, get them together and then form into farmer producer organization. That's a first step. And build federations of them. I think that's a key thing. So federations of institutions is what would be very economically viable model. It could be at a district level, it could be at a state level, but it could be based on a commodity, or it could be based on a supply chain. Say all cotton can be a cotton supply chain kind of thing, or it could be a vegetable supply chain, or it could be organic federation kind of. So it could be depending on what activity or what issue you are involved, you can make federations. And then federation can do the integrated support in terms of getting establishing processing facilities, in terms of having the technical support units, having the market units. So this could be a federation role. So typically a primary FPO, which works with the farmers, mostly focuses on backward linkages, whereas the federation focuses on the forward linkages. If that kind of role separation can happen, the FPOs becomes economically viable, because individually an FPO mobilizing all these support services, or the organization supporting the FPO mobilizing all these support, having all these support services also is extremely difficult. So a federated model of FPOs seems to be a viable model, and there are a number of examples across the country which shows that federations work better. So I think that is something which we need to look into. Amul is a great example. Amul is a federation. NAFED is a federation. And even in back home, Sahajaram is a federation. We support Benishan farmer producer company, which is a federation. So like that. So many are federations of smaller FPOs. So I think that's a model which will be viable. So we need to look into this kind of model. And to make this happen, what are the financial support schemes which are viable, which are available? If you look at, there are grants available from NABARD under NABARD Produce Fund, and typically about 11 lakhs is what they provide as support. And there is also PODF, Farm Producer Organization Development Fund. More similar kind of support is available under this scheme also. This is a new scheme which started by Government of India to promote 10,000 FPOs. And there are 4 organizations which are into implementation of this: NABARD, NCDC, SFSC, and NAFED. I'll talk more detail about this scheme. And then Department of Agriculture, Horticulture, and Marketing are doing the grants. Credit is available from NABKISAN and NBFCs, and commercial banks also are encouraged to the FPOs. So the support to FPOs is also brought under the priority sector lending. So into the 18% priority sector lending is also brought in. RBI has issued a master circular. Like you remember, for the SHG groups also, there was a master circular issued, and then that master circular created the revolution in terms of providing access to finances for the women self-help groups earlier. And similar kind of master circular has been issued recently for FPOs also. So FPOs can also access the commercial banks to get access to the credit. So that is something which is available, which were not there earlier. So both grants and credit, which was not there earlier, now these support services are available. And the new policy which the government of India announced is, apart from the existing FPOs, they're going to form 10,000 new FPOs in the next 5 years. And the cost proposed is about 6,866 crores, where they are going to spend about nearly 4,500 crores before 23-24, and then later the rest of the money. And this CBBO, this model of FPOs, they want to implement through clusters, typically identifying a product-based clusters. So in a district which is a major product, and then focus on that major product, create market facility for that product is what they're trying to look at. So formation and promotion of FPOs is based on produce cluster areas and supported by a cluster-based business organization. So they defined CBBOs as CBBOs. So CBBOs are set up and they're identified and set up by the state and cluster level organizations, and then they provide the feasibility and then prospective business plan for the FPO, and based on that the FPO would be the project would be sanctioned for implementation. So the attempt is to strike a balance between what an organization can grow on its own and what kind of support and intervention from the government is required. So they're trying to create a business institution where the government interference in terms of regulation or support would be minimal. So they're trying to create a support initially, and later on the institution can become independent and then run on its own. So that's a approach which this new scheme has taken, and the focus is on aspirational districts, notified tribal areas and northeast areas, and a national project management agency, NPMA, will be set up by SFSC. And in terms of finances, support services which are available, it's about 3 years grant. Earlier, if you remember, all schemes, like I mentioned about NABARD schemes and all, they are about 9 to 11 lakhs which is given. Whereas under this scheme, it is going to be about 18 lakhs per FPO. So it is going to be about 18 lakhs per FPO, and which is released as 6 lakhs per year. And this 6 lakhs per year is for managing the staff. So the initial 3 years period where you need to mobilize the staff, make the initial business plans, and then get access to the finances, that period, so that you don't eat into the share capital which is mobilized. So without eating into the share capital, how you can manage your staff initially till the business grows. To get that kind of support, this grant is provided up to 18 lakh rupees, and this 18 lakhs is for your staff, basically the staff of the FPOs. And the equity grant is provided, and equity grant is a maximum up to 15 lakhs. And so when you break it up, it is about 2,000 rupees per each member. So maximum ceiling for farmer is about 2,000 rupees. If you remember earlier, equity grant was 1,000 rupees per farmer and 10 lakh rupees at the FPO level. That was the case. Now they made it into 2,000 rupees per each farmer and 15 lakhs at the FPO level, which means if you have 750 farmers with 2,000 rupees share capital, you get another 2,000 rupees per each member, which would be about 15 lakhs. So with 15 lakhs share capital, you can get additional 15 lakhs, which makes it into 30 lakh rupees as the equity. So that is a support which is available. And to access this, you should have at least 300 members. So minimum 300 members with a share capital of 15 lakhs can access this equity support, equity grant. And working capital through bank loans. Now government has also come up with increased support as a credit guarantee scheme. So project loans above 1 crore and up to 2 crores, credit guarantee will be available up to 1.5 crores. Whereas up to 1 crore, credit guarantee is available up to 85 lakhs. So this is a credit guarantee scheme which is also available from the SFAC if you have a viable business plan. And apart from this, the FPOs are going to be the key platform where all the central and state government schemes will be implemented, and NABARD, NAFED, etc., NAFED, MARKFED, other organizations which are involved in procurement also, FCI, state governments, they also operate through these FPOs. That's what is the policy announcement is about. Another scheme which is also another big policy change which has happened, which would be useful for FPOs, is restructuring the MSME definitions. So today, till now, about any organization with less than 25 lakh investment was considered as micro enterprise, and now the definition has been expanded to have include organizations with investment of less than 1 crore. So from a 25 lakh limit, it is expanded to 1 crore limit. So up to 1 crore, you are still considered as a micro enterprise. So all the support services which are available for micro enterprise can happen. So 1 crore investment and about 5 crore turnover, you are considered as micro enterprise, and almost all farmer producer organizations fall under this category because we are in the initial stages. So they fall under this category. So we can avail the facilities which are available under micro enterprises, and the other categories are also changed. So what are the schemes available? So under the Agri Infra Development Fund, there is a new scheme which is announced. 10,000 crores is a central sponsored scheme which is available. It is equally shared between Government of India and the states. And 2 lakh micro enterprises are going to be supported under this scheme. And this will be implemented in cluster-based approach. At the district level, they are identifying organizations which will facilitate the whole operations. And major focus is on perishables. And of course, grains and other things are also supported. And the major focus also would be in terms of creating common support services for grading, sorting, processing, packing, storage, etc. So FPOs can typically use this support to establish the infrastructure facilities. And in addition to this, there is also a seed capital to SHGs up to 4 lakh rupees per SHG, so that they can manage their working capital and then small tools. And any form of registered organization or an individual, both are eligible to get this kind of support. So what is the support available? Support is available in terms of a subsidy of max about 10 lakh rupees and 35% of the project cost. So 35% of the project cost, 10 lakh rupees max ceiling limit on the subsidy. This is what is available, and beneficiary contribution can be as minimum as 10%, and the rest will be a bank loan, and that bank loan also would be facilitated by the agency. So I think that's an important thing in this program. Earlier, this was not there. So earlier it was the responsibility of the organization or the individual to develop a DPR or go into getting the financial access. So now all that would be supported. So you can get a skill training, you can get handholding support for developing a DPR, and you can also use this to upgrade the existing facilities. So these are the 3 advantages of this new scheme, and you can use this also to converge with other ongoing programs. So typically this can be used to access infrastructure facilities.